Roman Dodecahedron is remarkable and unusual because there's not many more than 100 known to exist.
In 2023, a group of amateur archaeologists digging in a quiet English field made a discovery that would shake the foundations of Roman history.
The most brilliant engineers of the ancient world. When we think of Rome today, we think of the Colosseum, we think of the aqueducts, we think of triumphal arches. All of them are an emblem of Roman civilization.
Buried under centuries of silence was a perfectly preserved bronze dodecahedron, an object that has mystified experts for generations. No one knows why they were made. No one knows what they were for. But this time, something was different. Scientists finally solved the Roman dodecahedron mystery, and it's worse than we thought. Unearthed in silence. The discovery began not with fanfare or headlines, but in the quiet patience of a warm summer afternoon in 2023. In a sleepy corner of rural England, where the gentle Lincolnshire breeze stirred the grass and the hum of distant tractors mingled with birdsong, a small team of amateur archaeologists worked steadily in a farmer's field just outside the village of Norton Disney. The land had long been tilled and walked over by generations, but beneath the familiar soil, secrets slumbered silently. The metal detector's faint beep cut through the air, a sharp, unexpected signal in the otherwise serene landscape. Digging carefully, trowels and brushes revealed first a glimmer, then the unmistakable shape of a carefully crafted metal artifact. As layers of earth gave way, the form emerged, a Roman dodecahedron, astonishingly preserved after more than 17 centuries of burial. Its 12 flat faces were smooth and symmetrical, each punctuated by a circular hole, and the tiny metallic knobs adorning every corner glistened faintly in the sun, like miniature sentinels guarding their secret. This wasn't just any relic. It was as if time itself had pressed pause, preserving an object that seemed both ancient and strangely futuristic. The weight in the hand was surprising, heavier than expected for its size, the cool bronze whispering stories untold. There was no rust, no pitting, no trace of the decay expected from so long beneath the earth. It was an artifact almost untouched by time's relentless passage. The find rippled quietly through the archaeological community, reaching unexpected ears. Joe Rogan mentioned it on his podcast, his usually casual tone tinged with genuine wonder. "We've found over 100 of these," he reportedly said, voice lowered as if sharing a sacred secret. "And nobody knows what they're for. That's wild." His words captured a collective fascination, sparking a flurry of discussion online and offline. Theories surfaced as swiftly as whispers in a crowded room. Tools, religious objects, toys, calendars, each guess more imaginative than the last. Yet what made this particular discovery so remarkable wasn't just the object itself, but the context. Unlike many dodecahedra that had surfaced through metal detectorists or isolated finds, this one was excavated scientifically, carefully removed from a defined archaeological layer. It emerged alongside fragments of pottery, coins, and the faint outlines of Roman-era post holes, a tangible piece of history finally given voice. This was not a relic lost and found by chance. It was a message from the past, patiently waiting to be heard. A shape out of time. The Roman dodecahedron is a puzzle wrapped in bronze and shadow. Archaeologists have uncovered more than 130 of these objects scattered across the outer edges of the Roman Empire, from the windswept fields of Belgium to the misty hills of Britain, from the forests of Germany to the ancient roads of Gaul. Yet, curiously, none have ever been found in Rome itself or in the empire's Italian heartland. Their geographical absence is a riddle in itself, like stars shining brightly only at the edges of the night sky but never at its center. There are no inscriptions, no carvings, no mention in the vast corpus of surviving Roman literature. Not a single scroll or papyrus describes their use, nor does any temple relief depict their shape. They appear, fully formed and mysterious, in the archaeological record as if dropped from nowhere, without explanation or context. The precision of their construction defies casual workmanship. Some were cast in a single piece of bronze, a feat of ancient metallurgy demanding skill and knowledge lost to time. Each of the 12 faces is a perfect pentagon, each punctured by a circular hole whose size varies subtly from face to face. These holes are no random decoration. Some are scarcely larger than a small coin, while others are wide enough to slip a finger through with ease. The knobs perched on each vertex are no mere embellishments either. They are meticulously shaped, sometimes soldered on individually, sometimes hand-formed, their details differing from piece to piece, as if each dodecahedron carried its own unique signature. Examining the edges and holes, one finds concentric ridges etched with delicate care, like an echo captured in bronze, a hint of functionality rather than ornamentation. But peer inside, and there is only emptiness. The interiors are hollow, silent, and still. No mechanisms, no residues, no evidence of what might once have interacted with them. They cannot have been children's toys, too fragile and finely made for rough play. They don't resemble jewelry, lacking the wear or attachment points typical of personal adornment. And as weapons, they are far too delicate, with no edges or points designed for offense or defense. So what then? What purpose could justify the time, effort, and skill required to create these enigmatic objects only to bury them, time and time again, in far-flung Roman provinces? And why were these peculiar shapes never made or used within the core of the empire itself? Questions loom as large as the mysteries these bronze forms carry, inviting us to peer beyond the obvious and to consider meanings lost to millennia, waiting for rediscovery. Perfectly preserved, purposefully forgotten. The Norton Disney object is extraordinary not only for what it is, but for the remarkable condition in which it was found. Unlike many other Roman dodecahedra, which have suffered the ravages of time, cracked, fragmented, or missing entire faces, this particular piece was astonishingly intact. Its exterior surface shone with a polished finish that seemed almost untouched by centuries buried beneath the earth. The metal, despite its age, bore no significant corrosion or erosion. Even the inner chamber, usually rough and worn in similar artifacts, remained remarkably well preserved, as if sealed in time. The craftsmanship was evident. It had been created with care and precision, and somehow it had been spared the damage so often inflicted on relics from that era. What truly set this discovery apart was the context in which it was found. The Norton Disney object was unearthed during a carefully conducted excavation that revealed a wealth of Roman-era items still in their original positions. The surrounding artifacts, a collection of coins dating to the late 3rd century, intricately designed brooches, shards of pottery, and even the remains of a collapsed villa wall, painted a vivid picture of a moment frozen in history. The object had been intentionally buried, carefully positioned amidst other valuables and structural remnants, hinting at a purpose beyond mere disposal. This context contrasted sharply with the typical circumstances of other dodecahedra discoveries. Usually, such objects are found isolated, divorced from any clear archaeological framework. They often surface alone, devoid of nearby artifacts or structural clues, making it difficult for researchers to piece together their stories. But here, the Norton Disney dodecahedron opened a rare window into its historical life, offering tantalizing hints about how it might have been used, valued, or even concealed. Yet, as researchers studied this new evidence, a troubling realization began to take shape. The deliberate burial suggested an intent not just to preserve, but also to hide, perhaps even to forget. This was not simply an artifact lost to time. It was an object that someone had purposefully removed from sight, as if it held a secret too dangerous or precious to remain known. The wrong places at the wrong times. The story of Roman dodecahedra is one marked by strange and unexpected discoveries in places where their presence seems both baffling and ominous. Across Roman-occupied territories, these objects have emerged repeatedly, but never in locations that offer a straightforward explanation. They have been dredged from the depths of riverbeds, resting silently beneath flowing waters for centuries. Archaeologists have uncovered them tucked inside graves, placed alongside the deceased in funerary rituals that hint at spiritual or symbolic significance. Others have surfaced beneath the foundations of grand Roman baths and ancient theaters, settings where the mundane and the sacred often intersected, but where such enigmatic objects seem out of place. More perplexingly, dodecahedra have appeared in military outposts, buried next to weapons caches and small religious figurines. These finds suggest that the objects might have held a protective or ceremonial function, potentially linked to the superstitions or beliefs of soldiers stationed on distant frontiers. Some dodecahedra have been found amid coin hoards, as if they were treasured possessions or talismans, set aside for safekeeping alongside vast wealth. Such treatment implies these objects were not merely tools or decorations, but bore a deeper value, whether monetary, spiritual, or mysterious. Their geographic distribution adds another layer to the enigma. These dodecahedra appear almost exclusively within Roman territories of Gaul and Britannia, regions on the empire's western edge that were often turbulent and contested. Strikingly, they are absent from the empire's heartlands and its eastern provinces. Not a single confirmed discovery has been made in Egypt or central Italy, areas rich with Roman relics and artifacts of every kind. This pattern suggests a deliberate limitation, a localized tradition or practice that remained isolated from the empire's cultural and administrative core. This raises difficult questions about the origin and purpose of these artifacts. Why would a civilization renowned for its obsession with order, logic, and meticulous record-keeping produce such objects, complex, puzzling, and undocumented? The Romans were masters of documentation, yet no ancient text or inscription mentions these dodecahedra. No manuals describe their use, and no official records account for their manufacture or significance. One unsettling possibility emerges from this silence. Perhaps the Romans were not the creators at all. Could these objects have been made by a lost culture within the empire's borders, or even brought in from outside influences? Might they have been inherited, adopted, or appropriated, and then systematically erased from official history? The Norton Disney find, perfectly preserved and deliberately concealed, only deepens this mystery, hinting at a story of power, secrecy, and forgotten knowledge that still waits to be uncovered. Gaul's quiet resistance. The story doesn't rest with the mighty legions and marble monuments of Rome. Instead, it stirs in the quiet undercurrents of the provinces, in the rolling hills of Gaul and the misty forests of Celtic Britain. Long before the ironclad discipline of the Roman army swept across these lands, ancient customs flourished undisturbed. These were places where nature's rhythms held sway, where the turning of the seasons was a sacred dance, and where the sky's stars guided the rituals of everyday life. Here, druidic priests led secret ceremonies beneath ancient oaks, their chants echoing through dense woodlands. Seasonal festivals marked not only the passage of time, but also the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. The people worshipped in ways that honored the invisible forces of nature, the spirits of earth and sky. These rites were intimate, communal, and, most importantly, closely guarded from the prying eyes of imperial authority. The Romans, for all their might, were pragmatic rulers. They tolerated a degree of local custom, understanding that heavy-handed interference could fuel unrest. But their tolerance had limits. The Lex Cornelia de Sicariis et Beneficiis, a stern law aimed at protecting the state from poisoners and sorcerers, explicitly outlawed any practice deemed magical or threatening to social order. Divination, communicating with spirits, unauthorized ritual gatherings. These were criminal acts. Such practices were not only seen as heresy, but as acts of rebellion against the orderly, rational world Rome claimed to represent. And yet, it is precisely in these shadowed fringes, the silent provinces on the edge of the empire, where dodecahedra most frequently appear. These curious 12-sided objects surface in burial sites, nestled alongside items clearly meant for ritual use, animal bones arranged in symbolic patterns, carved talismans, and offerings to unseen powers. Their very placement suggests a purpose beyond mere decoration or practicality. This raises an uncomfortable question for historians and archaeologists alike. What if these dodecahedra were never truly Roman at all? What if they belonged to the old world of Gaulish and Celtic spirituality, relics of a belief system Rome sought to erase? The conspicuous absence of any mention in Roman texts or official inventories could then be seen not as innocent omission, but as deliberate censorship. The empire didn't just ignore these objects, they silenced their existence, attempting to suppress the traditions they represented. This was cultural resistance etched in metal, surviving beneath the surface of conquest and colonization. The geometry of the unseen. Fast forward to 2024, where the intersection of ancient mystery and modern science begins to unravel these secrets anew. At the University of Ghent, a team of researchers allegedly embarked on an exhaustive geometric study of several dodecahedra, including the remarkable specimen found in Norton Disney. Their analysis was meticulous, combining archaeology, astronomy, and mathematics in an attempt to decode the object's cryptic design. The first startling revelation was the non-random nature of the holes perforating each face of the dodecahedra. Far from being arbitrary, the diameters of these apertures corresponded precisely to a system of ratios that matched ancient celestial cycles. When compared with the known star charts of the Iron Age, the hole sizes aligned with the apparent positions of the Sun during key solar events, specifically the solstices and equinoxes as observed from northern latitudes such as those in Celtic Britain and Gaul. Even more intriguing was the arrangement of the small metal knobs at each vertex of the dodecahedron. Their placement echoed the positions of prominent stars celebrated during spring and autumn festivals. It was as if the object itself was a three-dimensional map of the heavens, designed to interact with the cosmos in a deliberate, meaningful way. The team's experiments extended beyond mere measurement. When the dodecahedron was held in direct sunlight, it cast a series of delicate, symmetrical shadows that danced and shifted with the day's progression. These shadows traced pentagonal rings on surfaces beneath, moving like the hands of a celestial clock, marking the passage of time through light and shadow. This behavior was no accident or mere artistry. It hinted at a sophisticated tool, perhaps a primitive calendar used by ancient peoples to time agricultural activities, ritual ceremonies, or the summoning of natural forces tied to the changing seasons. In a world without mechanical clocks or written almanacs, such an object would be invaluable, a bridge between earthly life and the rhythms of the cosmos. Could the dodecahedron have been more than just a sacred object, a functional instrument to mark when certain rites should be performed, a means to harness unseen powers using geometry and light as keys to the spiritual world? The answers remain elusive, but what is clear is that these objects embody a mysterious blend of science, religion, and magic, a testament to a worldview that saw the universe as a living, interconnected whole. Replicas and residue. To delve deeper into the enigma surrounding the Roman dodecahedra, researchers adopted a hands-on approach. Replication. Utilizing cutting-edge technology, they meticulously created 3D printed models that perfectly mirrored the dimensions, contours, and intricate features of the original artifacts. These replicas were not mere visual copies. They were designed to faithfully reproduce the exact geometry, from the 12 flat pentagonal faces down to the size variations in each hole. In specially controlled environments, scientists subjected these models to a battery of tests. Light was directed through the holes, heat sources applied, and sound waves emitted, each to observe how the dodecahedron might interact with physical forces. Every nuance, from how shadows played across the faces to the resonance within the hollow core, was logged with high-precision instruments. Among these experiments, one moment was profoundly striking. When a small, steady flame was carefully placed inside a translucent version of the dodecahedron, the light didn't simply diffuse randomly. Instead, it channeled through the holes in a precisely timed sequence, casting an ethereal, spinning halo of geometric shapes onto the walls of the darkened laboratory. The shapes rotated slowly, almost hypnotically, their edges flickering like a living pulse. The atmosphere grew quiet, the air thick with fascination, until one intern finally broke the silence with a whisper that seemed to capture the moment's mystique. "It looks like it's breathing." This visual phenomenon suggested that these objects were far from mere trinkets or ornamental curiosities. They were engineered with purpose, possibly for use in ceremonies or signaling. However, it was the analysis of the original Roman dodecahedra that delivered the most astonishing breakthrough. At Oxford's prestigious radiochemical laboratory, researchers performed residue testing on the interior chambers of several authentic dodecahedra, hoping to detect traces of materials that might hint at their use. The results stunned the scientific community. Embedded within the metal cavity were faint, yet unmistakable, traces of burnt organic compounds. Chemical assays confirmed the presence of animal blood residues, preserved enough to survive nearly 2 millennia. Alongside these were microscopic particles of ash derived from lavender and thyme, plants known historically for their aromatic and preservative qualities. Perhaps most remarkably, the tests revealed a trace of resin compounds consistent with those used in Roman embalming practices, substances deliberately applied to preserve bodies in funerary rites. The presence of burnt blood and embalming resin pointed unequivocally to ritualistic use, objects involved in ceremonies, sacrifices, or mystical rites tied to life, death, and possibly communication with the divine or the afterlife. This revelation forced scholars to reconsider the entire body of previous theories, many of which now appeared as little more than convenient cover stories meant to veil the true sacred purpose these artifacts served. The Hidden Codex. As the year 2024 waned, the field of dodecahedron studies was jolted by the rediscovery and reinterpretation of a long-forgotten manuscript from a remote monastery in southern France. This ancient parchment, catalogued simply as Codex Mistrae, had been buried in obscurity for centuries, often overlooked due to its damaged condition and fragmented text. Until now, it was widely believed to be a theological treatise, of limited historical interest beyond ecclesiastical circles. But a recent scholarly initiative to retranslate and analyze the codex using advanced ultraviolet light technology revealed a hidden passage previously unreadable to the naked eye. Beneath layers of faded ink and paper deterioration, the researchers uncovered a crucial phrase: Orbis Divinorum, Latin for the divine sphere. This cryptic term was embedded within a description that spoke of bronzen forms with 12 faces, pierced and crowned, an unmistakable reference to objects with 12 pentagonal faces, each pierced by holes and adorned with decorative knobs or crowns. The manuscript reportedly described these as instruments used by the whispering ones of the forest to hear the voices of the stone sleepers. This phrase ignited fierce debate among historians and linguists, yet it became evident that the bronzen forms were indeed the Roman dodecahedra, those mysterious 12-faced artifacts whose purpose had eluded understanding for so long. The Codex Mistrae thus offered not only a name for these objects, but also a tantalizing hint at their sacred function. The whispering ones of the forest suggested a secretive sect or cult, individuals who practiced hidden rituals in natural settings, possibly to commune with ancient forces or spirits. Metaphorically, the voices of the stone sleepers. These stone sleepers might refer to ancestral spirits, the earth itself, or even lost knowledge encoded in stone monuments. More striking was the tone of warning woven into the passage, hinting at the dangers or prohibitions surrounding the dodecahedra and those who wielded them. For the first time in centuries, the dodecahedron was no longer an anonymous relic. It was named and contextualized within a spiritual and mystical framework. This textual breakthrough was a cornerstone for a new wave of interdisciplinary research, uniting archaeology, linguistics, chemistry, and anthropology to unravel the layers of mystery. The 2025 revelation. Early in 2025, a joint research team from the UK, France, and Israel released a confidential report, later leaked to scientific journals. Their conclusion: the Norton-Disney dodecahedron was not Roman in origin. Metallurgical testing reportedly placed its bronze alloy to a Celtic foundry predating Roman arrival by over 150 years. But even more disturbing was the alleged chemical signature inside. Calcium phosphate traces consistent with burned human bone, fused with amber sap and animal fat. The formula matched known funeral and necromantic rites practiced in pre-Christian Gaul. The dodecahedron wasn't a tool, it was a vessel. A sacred container used in funerary rites to commune with the dead. A spiritual instrument designed to harness sound, light, and smoke in controlled spaces. And now that it had been found, in pristine condition, in full view of modern science. Its purpose had finally been exposed. And this is shocking. They were living relics, the last surviving devices from a vanished spiritual technology, deeply intertwined with the Celtic world's sacred traditions. Passed down through generations of mystics, druids, and seers, these objects carried the knowledge and power of a pre-imperial religion that Rome had desperately sought to eradicate. The Romans didn't create these dodecahedra. They inherited them, and more importantly, they feared them. Imperial law codified the suppression of indigenous spiritual practices, branding them heretical and dangerous. Could ancient technology hold secrets that modern science still isn't ready to face? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching this video with us, and catch you in the next one.